Well, here's where things are for us. We were just commiserating about Richardson as an Indianapolis Colt before we started this show. But hopefully things are going better for you all in your Week 16 fantasy football championships.
And Matt, no matter how bad your day is going at home or our day may be going here, though it's not very bad because we have dream jobs, it's still better than Devlin Hodges' day.
Oh, my God, yeah. Devlin Hodges benched for Mason Rudolph. We'll get to that and more. But remember, of course, the show is about you, the people. Bring your heat, bring your fire into the chat room with whatever questions you need answered for the late games. Whether it's, what do I do with Dak Prescott? Do I start these Cowboys receivers? Whatever. Bring your questions.
Just chat.
Or let's just talk. Let's just rip it up about what's going on in the NFL right now.
Chop it up.
Rip it up, chop it up.
Chop it up.
It's Week 16.
What we say. What is said.
What the insiders in the business say?
No, I think just like normal people say chop it up.
Well, all right.
I don't know if you have to be an insider.
Fair enough. But anyways,
okay.
Mason Rudolph is back in your lives.
He has been chopped up.
Just in time for Christmas, Mason Rudolph is back.
Well, we did say in the green room, he is the gift you should not put on layaway and should just return. It's okay if you can't afford him because he ain't worth the price tag.
I saw our social handle tweeted out a video of somebody taking off their Duck Hodges jersey to reveal a Mason Rudolph jersey underneath. Imagine, I'll pull it up. Great call. I'll pull it up on the screen for the other people to see. Could you imagine spending real American dollars on both jerseys? Now that's...
I mean, I hear college loan debt is a thing, but not for this person.
All right, I've got it pulled up here. I mean, look at that. He takes the Duck Hodges jersey off. And there he goes, putting the Mason Rudolph one back on.
You know what? I have a question for this human.
Okay.
Where's your terrible towel?
Oh, it's tucked. You see it tucked right there.
Oh, never mind. He got it. He got it.
Someone replied respect. No, don't respect that. Don't respect that sort of madness. We got some questions in the chat. Derrick Henry being hurt today quite possibly ruined your chances. If my teams had Derrick Henry had made it to the fantasy championship, I'd be pretty bummed too. A.J. Brown has scored a long touchdown. Jonnu Smith has scored a long touchdown.
Whoop.
That's one of your picks this morning.
We did tell people to see. This is the beauty of fantasy. Earlier during FFL, Matt and I were like, oh, you know what? Probably sit A.J. Brown because Derrick Henry might throw this. I mean, that was among good picks, right? Like, Derrick Henry's absence might throw this whole offense out. I hyped Jonnu Smith, and yet you get 1 for 1. Smith scores, A.J. Brown scores. You can never be 100%.
That would be a little too much. But the Saints have started to turn it around in kind of the later portions of the first half. It's now 10-14. New Orleans has the ball, I think, Tennessee just punted, so they're going to get the ball here. It's not quite the same powerhouse Saints offense that we saw the last 2 weeks. You put a lot of stock into that being the fact that it's on the road, outdoor narrative with Drew Brees.
Well, that is an interesting narrative, though, because Drew Brees, I don't believe, has played on the road outdoors since week 11 of last year.
Right.
That's a pretty long stretch. That's over a calendar year.
Yeah, I mean, he's been hurt so much this year. So... I don't know. I think.
I would love to see the Titans. The Titans probably aren't going to make the playoffs, right?
Probably not at this point.
They lost after the loss to the Texans. It's pretty much done. But it would be such a fitting and poetic end to their season if they did play spoiler, because their play over the past few weeks is so much better than their year-end record implies.
Yeah, I mean, yesterday the Texans beat kind of one of those teams in the Bucs. They've been sort of the spoiler.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, I think Tennessee's a much better
in too close
team.
of a game.
A little too close, right? But that's the thing with the Texans.
That's
the thing with the Texans is you just don't know what you're going to get from them. They have a great ceiling to, I think, upset a team. They already did it to New England. They could take down one of those teams in the playoffs, but they also have the floor to just get wiped out in the first round and be completely forgotten. So
they remind me, often it is said of Matt Stafford, the starting quarterback for the Lions, right? Or at least he was for the first, half of the season, 3/4 of the season, that Matt Stafford is the type of quarterback that plays up to the level of competition. I don't think that's true of Deshaun Watson, but I do think it's true of Bill O'Brien in terms of play calling and true of the squad as a whole of playing up to the level of competition.
Yeah, I think it's so true. And also just in general, they have great defined strengths as a roster, but they have clear defined weaknesses as well. It used to be the offensive line, but they've been a pretty good offensive line so far this year. It's really been the defense and the secondary that's been so problematic. And I don't know, I did have someone ask an interesting question to me yesterday about Deshaun Watson specifically? Like, is this the type of game yesterday that kind of keeps you from saying Deshaun Watson is a superstar quarterback? I don't know about that. I think he is a superstar quarterback.
There's also a conservation issue, right? Like if you are the type of quarterback that Deshaun Watson is, and that frankly these new #new era quarterbacks are, maybe you're not trying to leave it all on the field every single time because you want to preserve your longevity.
Yeah, I mean, I think that that's true, and just in general, you have to kind of evolve that playing style, everything like that.
Yeah.
For those upset about Lamar Jackson not crushing it immediately in your fantasy football
Well,
championships,
congrats.
don't worry about it. You're gonna be fine. He just threw a touchdown, I think, to Hollywood Brown. The Ravens are now up on the Browns, and it looked like the Browns are going to be kind of like the bugaboo for the Ravens, if you will. They gave him trouble, obviously, early in the season. They were giving him a little bit of trouble, but the Ravens are back on track.
Yeah.
No big deal.
They're up 14-6.
Right. It was a cute few moments there for the Browns.
Nick Chubb, by the way, only averaging 2.1 yards per carry, so.
Well, it's a great defense in Baltimore. I mean, that's been kind of the even.
It is a balanced defense, and I think, heading into the season, Matt and I talked a lot about all of the veteran pieces that Baltimore lost, and I was like, I don't know. Like, I'm a little bit worried about the efficiency as a whole because it's going to take a minute, and Matt, to his credit, was definitely like, Baltimore knows how to get their defense on track. Maybe it doesn't happen week 1, but they will get there eventually, whether it's through trade, which definitely happened with the Marcus Peters trade, or just coaching up these, like, otherwise, average players like Judon, frankly, to a next level, and that is exactly what happened.
That is what they do pretty much every year. They always kind of figure it out.
It was a nice first month of the season.
Yeah. Dennis from Facebook asks, should I sit Stephon Diggs and start Greg Ward now that the Vikings might take it easy after clinching the playoffs? No! The Vikings want to win.
That wasn't
the
even
NFC
rehearsed,
North.
by the way.
No, that was perfect. God, synergy. Hell yeah. Look, I think, frankly, Stephon Diggs he's stepped up so much with Adam Thielen been out most of the year. I think he's going to have to step up even more in this one with Dalvin Cook out. I think they'll be incentivized, I think, to let Kirk Cousins get into rhythm, especially early. Some of those boot play actions, a lot of those targets have gone to Diggs. Plus, they want to win the NFC North. They have every incentive to win this game on Monday night.
Plus, do you not think that this team has the shadow of the Packers looming at them at all times? Come on, nobody. Like, Kirk Cousins does. I've met the man, and, like, see what you will on the field. He has an ego, and he is motivated. Also, Stephon Diggs might be the biggest chip on your shoulder player in the NFL.
Yeah, he's just been straight up awesome all year. From YouTube, Richard says, Ryan Fitzpatrick, you bearded bastard. Or badass, either one.
Delicious.
Whatever. Get it? He has 32 points in the first half. I mean, Ryan Fitzpatrick. Every week I did the Wolf pickups. It was like every week, just play Ryan Fitzpatrick for the quarterback streamer. Give me a break.
Well, I think people were waiting for the Fitzmagic to evaporate, and it hasn't yet. And here's why: because the team can't run the damn ball. It is impossible for the Dolphins to run the ball, which is why Ryan Fitzpatrick is the team's leading rusher, and also adding you that extra floor in fantasy.
Yeah. 252 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 1 carry for 15 yards in the first half. The Bengals have straight up said, no, we're getting Joe Burrow out of this hole. We did not have this nasty season to not get the top quarterback. We're going to make sure we lose this game. Devontae Parker, 3 for 77, a touchdown. Mike Gesicki, 4 for 55 and a touchdown.
Yes.
Albert Wilson's even chipped in with 6 for 73. And as you mentioned, I mean, here's the yardage for the running backs on Miami right now. Patrick Laird, 9. DeLance Turner,
whatever that is,
6. And the great Myles Gaskin,
2.
So beautiful. The Dolphins, they rock. Awesome. Where's Fitzpatrick? Is Fitzpatrick going to be back in Miami next year? That's a great question.
Does he want to be back? I mean, I would imagine, like, it's Miami, right? Like, who doesn't want to be back? Maybe we'll see him at the Super Bowl. Matt and I are both going. So I would imagine him wanting to, like Florida is known as a retirement area, right? So why not just hang it up already ahead of the game? Forget the snowbirds, you're there, yeah.
Yeah, just hang it there.
I can imagine him being the backup in Miami next year, and then really leaning in, maybe Josh McCown style, but like the cool Josh McCown, like the anti-Canadian tuxedo version of Josh McCown and like leaning into the whole like mentoring in a cool way the next kid up.
I think that makes a lot of sense. But also, if he does get to the open market, I think some team, that is in a transition period. That's not a bad call, to be honest. I mean, John Gruden definitely.
He's the anti-Derek Carr. Like, do you want some DGAF in your quarterback? Give me some Fitzmagic.
And I mean, John Gruden is never hesitant to like cast his eye to a new quarterback, and I think that's certainly going to be a conversation that happens in the.
Do you think Derek Carr ends up in Vegas next year?
Yeah, but I don't think he's alone. You know what I mean?
There's a competition
I think
of
there will
some
be
sort.
a competition because, I mean, his contract actually is pretty affordable in terms of like quarterback wise. I mean, they know they have to know there's a ceiling with Carr. I just think that they would. Maybe they try to trade him. I don't know who's trying to trade for Derek Carr, but
you never know what's going to happen in the like how he if he has like a signature moment like you like to say in week 17, and the loss at the black hole at the last home game like is wiped away.
Yeah.
Then there's enough of an inventory issue here. It's also like we have an inventory issue in terms of coaches and in terms of quarterbacks, but so much of it is dependent on a marriage. And like, I'm sorry, but Derek Carr is not John Gruden's type.
I completely agree with that. Yeah, the way they want to play the position is not the same at all. Our good pal Deke from Facebook asked,
Yay, Deke!
Hunter Henry or Darren Waller?
Oy. So, speaking of the Raiders, right?
You had some good analysis on the podcast about Hunter Renfrow and Darren Waller.
So I will say that thank you, first of all, that Darren Waller only has scored 3 touchdowns all season, and they were over 2 weeks in the middle of the season, and his targets significantly decreased when Hunter Renfrow, Derek Carr's other favorite underneath target, was on the field. So I do think with Renfrow being back this week, you're limiting Waller's ceiling. Now, he is an athletic marvel. No one is disputing that, right? He's going to go over 1,000 yards this season. But when I look at Hunter Henry and like Phillip Rivers' proclivity towards spreading it around, I do think I'm going to have to lead Henry's way.
I feel like I trust Waller a little bit more. Typically,
it is tight.
It's tight. And I do think, though, if you're looking for a ceiling perspective, I think it lies with Hunter Henry. It lies with Hunter Henry in a good matchup. I think that probably makes a lot of sense. Again, this week 16, man, don't leave anything on the field. I think we're in lockstep. You go with Hunter Henry there. Let's talk about a game.
Changed.
Yeah, well, I started thinking Waller's the safer bet, but again, ceiling perspective here in Week 16, go with Hunter Henry there. Let's talk about a great NFC East showdown, and it's not the one that's happening this afternoon with Dallas and Philadelphia. Let's talk about New York Giants 28-14 over Washington.
Yep.
Let me read you the stats of these two rookie quarterbacks. Daniel Jones, 77.8 completion percentage, 9.2 yards per attempt. 3 touchdowns, no picks, sacked just once. Dwayne Haskins, 80% completion rate, 8.9 yards per attempt, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, sacked twice. The kids are playing well down there. Well, down there, up in New York.
Who would you rather have? Daniel Jones
kill me. I don't know.
or Dwayne Haskins?
I think.
Here, while you're thinking about it,
Yeah,
let me just throw a little I don't know what your way.
Something.
My issue with Daniel Jones, so we talked about this a couple of weeks ago. Everyone likes to say that Eli Manning doesn't give this team a fighting advantage, right? Because of his lack of athleticism and like maybe dead arm. Although his arm had been plenty rested, which is why he had a proclivity towards pushing the ball deeper more frequently, which you could see through Darius Slayton's stats, than Daniel Jones. And we know that Dwayne Haskins and Terry McLaurin, whether it's McLaurin dragging him into production or not, is certainly willing to like let it fly. I almost think I would prefer to have Haskins, despite the fact that they both started the season in very different places.
Yeah, and like when you just compare the talent around these two players, Daniel Jones certainly has the bigger advantage.
And yet?
I think you go with Haskins because
he's
shown less his rookie year, but he's also hasn't shown quite the downside either.
He's also shown like a faster evolution, which I did not think he had in him.
He's looked great the last 2 weeks.
Yeah.
I mean, just from what we were seeing before. Mick points out from Facebook that Darius Slayton did get hurt in this game. He's missing this offensive explosion, which is a bummer because he's sitting on 0 catches on 1 target. Now, however,
that's why Cody Latimer found that
sick, which everyone was definitely asking for that. It's worth noting too, Saquon Barkley absolutely exploded in this game. 9 carries for 126 yards and a touchdown, and then 1 catch for 33 yards and a touchdown on his lone target of the day. So he is, if you managed to make it this far with Saquon Barkley on your roster, you're probably going to win your championship today. Robert from Facebook asked us a question that we had a couple of times on FFL too. I think it's worth touching on here. DeAndre Washington or Mike Boone. Which one of these two replacement running backs do we favor?
Well, it's interesting because Richard is going with Boone and his opponent is going with DeAndre Washington. I have to go with the more electric offense, which would belong to the Vikings and Boone, so I'm going to give that the advantage.
I think so too. I mean, I think that game will be higher scoring. I trust the overall offensive ecosystem, not just from the offense overall perspective, but the running game in Minnesota has been, whenever they've thrown Alexander Mattison in there, he's looked pretty good. We know that Cook is having an incredible year. That system has just churned out productive rushers pretty much from its inception.
It's the passing volume that adds a little bit of a question, right? Like Amir Abdullah is in the mix. He's the change of pace back, right?
Yep, you're
in
right.
the same way that I suppose you could argue Jalen Richard is for the Raiders, but I don't know. Like I feel like DeAndre Washington is a more acceptable play within the passing game, right? But I think ultimately
6 catches on 7 targets when last he started.
But that was also without Hunter Renfrow in the lineup.
Very true at all. One of the surprises today is definitely Devonta Freeman, who has 20 fantasy points.
Oh.
I know I answered a question for somebody who said, I'm done with the Freeman dust. I don't need to have that anymore. Well, kind of wish you would have had those points in your lineup. Also worth noting, James Conner has been ruled out for the rest of this game, so that is that.
Oh, there's a surprise.
Yeah, I know. That's like a theme of the season.
Did somebody aggravate something?
Probably. Also, I think Dwayne Haskins might be hurt. You can correct me if I'm wrong on that, but that's where we're at now. We'll take this last question before we sign off here. Richard wants to know, he's in a Dynasty League. He has Mac and Devontae Adams, who he's keeping again, but last 2 spots open. Should he pick DJ Chark, Hollywood Brown, Brashad Perryman, Jacob Hollister, Zach Pascal, or Darius Slayton?
He actually said Brent Perryman, who I believe is Brashad's dad.
Yeah, well, Rich Eisen said it on the broadcast yesterday, too. Yeah, so we need 2 of these guys, and I think it's
the first 2.
For the first 2, for sure. DJ Chark kind of exploded early, sort of slowed down, but I think I trust him to continue to evolve. And Hollywood Brown's a total stud. I expect a lot.
Hollywood Brown is a total stud, but I'd like to see him get healthy. And it might take, because this is Dynasty, a little bit of a minute. Remember, both Matt and I comped Hollywood Brown to John Brown, i.e. Smokey, who did flash, but then had some trouble staying healthy. And it wasn't until Buffalo this last year that he received actual wide receiver 1 volume and consideration. So I feel like since it is Dynasty, you might have to give Hollywood Brown a minute.
I think that makes a lot of sense. Dwayne Haskins was carted to the locker room. Case Keenum is back at quarterback for the 3rd quarter. And
What's up, 2019?
I think that's probably a good sign that we should sign off. Remember, we'll be back for the late game halftimes as well. Come check in with us. We'll be talking about the Seahawks and the Cardinals. How many touchdowns is Kenyon Drake going to score today? Oh, and also, of course, the big game that will decide the NFC East. We will see you all then.
Use that hashtag AskFFL.